Hey, this is Kyle Carver from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Kramer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Kramer family. Since that time, they've become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Kramer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio. Welcome back to Strong Dads. Hey guys, what's going on here with Merle? And we were just told we got a little critique. We got to come up with a different intro for how we do stuff. So maybe we should do part two.
Somebody actually had the nerve to say, "Is all you ever do is say, welcome to Strong Dads."
We got to figure out a new way to do it. We got to get a special guest or somebody to welcome to the jungle or something. We got to get it going.
Some different theme music.
Yeah.
You can't keep everybody happy.
I know. There's always going to be someone that just critiques us. Thanks, Linda.
Like I did with
it.
Linda the other day. She was making fun of me on the intro of our Rock Solid Radio, and so I just completely changed it and act like Mr. Rogers, and hi, welcome to Rock Solid Radio, and and then she started laughing, and we had to discontinue that whole show. That didn't go well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hey, welcome to welcome to Strong Dads.
that was all right. We got to do take 3 now.
Take 3. No, we're keeping that one in.
We'll keep it.
We're keeping it in. So, what's going on, man?
Not much, man.
I saw a picture of your garage.
I know.
Your garage is looking
We're
good.
We're
You got
about
the door
90,
on there.
I'm about 95. We'll say 95%.
You got electric in yet?
Not yet. So.
Okay, well, that's a big part.
That is
if you're going to use it for a wood shop, you're going to.
Well, that is true. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not doing electric because I hate getting shocked. Yeah. Electric and plumbing are the 2 things I don't mess with, Merle. I don't deal with those 2.
Yeah. Well, you'll get that in there. So that sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, so here we are. It is definitely fall is here. It's cold. It's gloomy. Blah blah blah.
I know my girls want to put winter jackets on this morning. I'm like, it ain't that cold yet, girls.
Yeah, it's getting close. But yeah, I mean, I saw out west this past weekend. It was 9 degrees and they had a foot of snow. I'm like, oh man, you talk about forcing it. That is forcing it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, with all that being said, there's also other gloomy stuff going on around here.
There is.
This thing called election.
Yeah.
We've got the election. We've always said this is not going to be a political show.
Right.
And today's not going to be a political show. It's not going to be a political show. But we are talking to Strong Dads. And we're talking today more about how do we learn to get along with people that we don't like.
Yep.
People that annoy us, people that, maybe we disagree with.
Yeah.
Because part of this is not just to help us get along, but it's teaching our kids. And the way that we model that to our family, to our kids in particular, is going to be something that they carry. They watch everything we do. And so we're going to have a little bit of conversation around that today.
Right.
Just about how we deal with people that we don't always like.
Right.
And, that's just the truth of the matter. Sometimes there's people we just don't like.
Well, and I also, the part about this conversation that I hope we're definitely going to touch on is when we disagree, because I think sometimes, the disagreements turn into no longer liking someone, and that's obviously should never be the goal, because especially when it comes to family and friends, we should never let disagreements become into dislikes and no longer liking those people. So I think it'll be good. We had touched on a few weeks ago. We did a show on being civil. And I think this will kind of definitely be kind of maybe almost like a part 2 of that.
Yeah.
And the idea that, we definitely, in our disagreements, we have to remain civil with one another.
Right. And again, we're doing this because not just, you might think you're pretty good at it, but how you model it and teach it within the home is as much a part of our conversation today as anything. Because from one generation to the next, we determine or we help preset how we're going to handle those days. And so, the way I learned how to handle frustration or disagreement or whatever, in large part, that was seeded from my parents.
Sure.
And so unless I actively reseed it, I redo it, and I actively in the process of saying, oh, what I'm doing is not working,
Right.
then I'm going to continue to do what I thought was working. And so that's where prejudices and things like that, they grow, and we don't even question them. It's like, well, this is how we are. This is the way I do things. So anyway, that's going to be some of our conversation. You got any stories about people you don't like? People. I'm not using the word hate. I'm not going to go there.
That's good.
You got any people you don't like that you have to kind of deal with on a regular basis? Watch names. We don't need to use any names.
I was going to say you.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I know how this is going to roll. I know. Yeah. So every day that I have to come in there and record that stupid show with you, I have to prepare myself the night before. Okay, good.
Yes.
I know where this is going.
No, that's just kidding. So I talk a lot here about my job and what I do, and I spend a third of my life with the same guys. And there are days where the guys come in and they're good, and then there's some days where you're just off, right? And so we have a lot of disagreements at work. Naturally, when you live with someone that you spend a third of your life, you naturally have a lot of disagreements. There's sometimes where I dislike the guys I work with, and I'm sure they could say the same about me.
They do. I shot me a message the other day.
But the cool thing is again, I talk all the time at the kitchen table is majority of our conversations that go on, and we'll have disagreements all the time at the kitchen table. And a lot of times, especially with a couple of the guys that I do work with, we have disagreements on how to approach certain situations, whether it be forcing open a door, whether it be searching for victims, whether it be cutting a hole in the roof. And we'll disagree on different ways to do it. Our end goal, what we want to achieve, is always the same. But it's how in which we go there. So a lot of times our disagreements when it comes to those topics, we'll go out to our training center and we'll be like, all right, you do your thing, I'll do mine, and we'll see which one maybe not is right or wrong, but which one's a little bit more efficient. So that's typically how we kind of go at those situations when we do have disagreements, when the guy is kind of just constantly on this is the point that I'm trying to make, and so we'll go out and we'll just figure it out together, and it typically ends where it's like, okay, so you kind of put the rubber meets the road, and there's really after both parties have kind of gone through and done both scenarios, there's really no disputing at that point. Be like, okay, well this one worked a little bit better. Yeah. Not that it was right or wrong, but this one just worked a little bit better.
I really like that. I mean, I like because what you're trying to do is you're trying to settle it in the best way you can in fact.
Yeah,
like getting to the facts, so that way we know right and wrong, or we know the fact. And that's just really in a lot of ways here. That's going to be a lot of part of our conversation about like, okay, what's the fact here? That works in cases where there is a fact that can be established.
Sure.
You use the word it's not right or wrong. Well, it could be right or wrong in that case.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It can be, yeah.
So there is, this is the right way for this situation. My stories on this are a little bit different. Over the years of dealing as a counselor and mediator in the school setting, I definitely had lots of opportunity to deal with people in situations I did not like. And sometimes the thing that made this difficult was there was not necessarily a right or wrong because it involved so many emotions. Like when you're dealing with a parent and their child, okay, the emotional connection that they have to seeing it through for their child becomes very different in terms of passion, in terms of what is right and what is wrong, compared to like from my seat, oftentimes my thinking process was not emotional. I was helping to run for the teacher, for the process, or for the school. And so like I would be trying to work more off of fact. Yeah. Well, here's the right way, here's the wrong way. But then I have the emotions of the parent. And so sometimes those things would get really ugly.
Sure.
And so I had to really learn how to do that. And I think that was part of the process for me. Even sometimes, even if you factually are right, sometimes when people's emotions are involved,
they can't.
you say, you know what, it's not worth me being right. on this
Yeah,
one.
that's true.
It's worth me having the relationship, whatever I need to do to keep the relationship. Because, like you say, maybe there's two ways to do it, and maybe there's one that's better. But if I can keep the relationship with this parent in this heated situation, it's better that I just give on this one and keep the relationship and still ultimately try to get done whatever needs to get done. So those were tough, man. Gosh, I can't even tell you the just number of times where you went in there. And we're going to talk about today, like how did I go in? What did I expect of our staff when we went into confrontation with parents and with those kind of meetings? We actually did have a process that we had to make sure we were ready to roll to ultimately get best outcomes. So anyway, we're going to get into that.
I like it.
But let's pay some bills.
For sure. Yeah, definitely today's Strong Dads podcast. We would love to thank the Mansfield Insurance Agency in Brighton, Indiana for coming alongside of us. The Mansfield Insurance Agency was established in 1981 by the Mansfield Insurance Agency. It has been dedicated to individuals and businesses in Brighton, Indiana, and they are serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.
All right, very good. We want to thank Crimer's Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you are looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House, located on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio. All right, so let's get into a little bit of background because this kind of sets the stage a little bit for the pre-election time.
Oh, boy.
We have seen so many distasteful election commercials and advertisements. We have
and debates.
You and I were talking before we were recording. It's like, I don't even know what truth is truth anymore. There's so many half-truths out there. There's so many slants to things. Sometimes we rag on the media, and it's like, the media may be telling the truth, but they only show one side of the truth.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, geez, oh, Pete, do I even trust what I hear there? So let's get some background on, as Christian men, as strong dads, how we are supposed to go about dealing with these kind of situations and still honoring God, okay? So let's be real clear from the get-go. We are not called to like everyone. All right, so let's just lay it out there. Like is a feeling. Like is something that emotionally or physically pleases me. I like ice cream. I like being around this person. They're funny or whatever. So that's a physical, a fleshly pleasure of mine. Okay. The love part is way different. We are called to love everyone.
Right.
How's that look different than like?
Well, the opposite of love would be hate, and we are definitely not called to hate people. God gave us the greatest commandment. He talked about love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then the second of that is to love your neighbor as yourself, and so that's definitely the biggest difference. Where just like you're talking about, the like kind of comes into play, where it's kind of dealing with more of the fleshly. But the love is that sacrificial where, again, you're not always going to have your best day, but we have to take people at their flaws. Like it's a pretty good thing that Jesus still loves us because we mess up all the time. And it's a good thing that Jesus doesn't just throw his hands up and like, well, I hate him. And so, if we're supposed to be strong men and strong dads, like we're called to love one another. And as difficult as that is, because I think in a lot of ways in society, we get that like and love thing kind of almost intertwined where, I don't like them. And automatically people jump to conclusion like, well, he doesn't love them anymore. Yeah. And it's hard because I joke with Jenny all the time, like, babe, I love you all the time. There's sometimes I just don't like you. Like, we're just having arguments.
That explains the black eye.
Yes.
That I'm looking at right now. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Because again, I think society kind of tosses those two together where sometimes I don't like Jenny and I don't like my kids. I love them to my absolute core. I would do anything in the world for them. That's that sacrificial love, where it's that unconditional love that we're called to love one another in that way. But yeah, sometimes I just don't like them, and I'm sure they would say the exact same thing about me.
Yeah, and this is a call out to all of us Christians,
Absolutely.
all of us men. We like to say we're Christian, but we like to cherry pick Scripture.
Don't we? Ever?
Right? Like, well, yeah, it says to love your neighbor, but like if that dude did that to me, no, wait,
I'm guilty of that one right there.
We cherry pick
Yep.
to make it fit our likes, to make it fit our emotional and our logical thinking patterns. And so, no, let's stop the cherry picking.
Yep.
God calls us to love our neighbor. And so, but we do have to kind of define like what that means. Love is based in not just sacrificial, but in respect.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I love somebody, I'm willing to sacrifice and do something for their betterment, for their welfare. Okay, and so that doesn't mean it's always going to be fun and it's going to be easy, but I'm there to say what do you need, or how can I help you through that?
Right.
And as a person, I'm going to respect you. In other words, I'm not more valuable than you are.
Right.
I'm not more valuable than you are. I'm not less, but I'm not more, and so I'm not going to treat you as if you are less. Okay?
And I think it's important to man, we got to remember that people are just different. Like, again, I joke with Jenny that I wish everyone thought exactly like I did.
Oh,
but
Lord,
man, what a world that would be. Like, we have to realize that people are just different, and that's a good thing. That if everyone just agreed with you 100% of the time, man, it wouldn't be very much fun. Like, there has to be disagreement. You have to have some form of a balance, that checks and balances. We are talking about political, the political climate we're currently in. There has to be checks and balances. Not only is in our government we need that, we also need that in your own home, in your friendships, in your group of friends. You have to have some form of checks and balances, because we've talked about this, that you can sit there and have a hype man the whole time, like, oh man, you can do this. But if you don't have someone that actually is coming alongside of you, be like, and almost fact checking you, like, hey, take a step back here for a second.
Yeah.
Let's reevaluate this a little bit.
Yeah. So I do think that there's a driving point here, though, to acknowledge that everybody's different, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
But when somebody's different, like if you go about something differently than I do, and it's not a right or wrong, it's just a difference, then that kind of can rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so here's where I break down into whether I'm going to like you or not.
Yeah.
If you keep annoying me with that difference, then all I can think about is the difference.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that we're going to get into, the idea is stop looking at everybody's differences. We actually have far, far more in common than we do in different. And we lose sight of that. The idea that we're all men, we're human, we have families, we came from a mama, we came from a father, these are things, we're all loved by God, created by God. These are the things that we have in common. And when we start to look at the similarities, we go, oh, wow, I do want to see your point of view. I do honor you in that way. So anyway, I think from the get-go, we just have to understand, people are different, and thank God that they are.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad thing.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Kind of as we're talking a little, kind of getting that background. I think let's kind of turn the conversation into, so then how do I deal with those people that I do disagree with? What are some of the things that we can kind of go at and hopefully be that we're different. We should look different in this. This should be something that us as strong dads, as strong men, we should want to look different with our disagreements. So when those disagreements happen, because again, society, those disagreements automatically means you hate them.
Right.
And so I think we should strive to want to look a little bit different. So let's kind of turn the conversation into that. So what are some of the ways that I can deal with some of these people that I do disagree with?
Yeah, this is great. This is what I would help myself, our staff deal with. And it's stuff that we work through in mediation. When I'm going to deal with somebody that I disagree with, what do I have to put in my head? How do I have to go about this? So the first thing is I have to put boundaries on myself to know that from the get-go, I'm going to have all of this on a foundation of respect. Okay, yep. I have to show that other person value. I can't devalue them. I don't talk down to them. I don't use phrases that are that way. I don't blame. I don't finger point. So right off the get-go, I'm going to respect the person. That doesn't mean I agree with you at all. It means I'm going to respect you as a person. I'm not going to talk down to you, because when somebody feels devalued, they honestly are going to go defensive or they're going to shut down.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, we both lose.
Yep. And I mean, that's definitely kind of trickles into, man, we have to have those boundaries, because, man, do not, hear me out, guys. Do not let a disagreement ruin a relationship with someone. If it's a family member, if it's a friend, a coworker, golly, this political climate we're in is not worth losing a friend, losing a relationship over, because, again, we're called to be in relationship with people. And if you allow something so worldly and earthly as political, social issues, man, you do not allow those. So I think it's just a good idea that when you go into these conversations where there may be disagreements, understand who your audience is. Understand if you're dealing with a family member, if you're dealing with a friend, a coworker, like if that means treading a little bit lightly and maybe not saying exactly what you're thinking, it's probably going to be worth it in the long run. And this is something that I struggle with, because I'm an open book. I'm pretty clear cut, and my mom always says I'm very opinionated. And so I struggle with this because I don't have filter sometimes, because I just say what's on my mind, and that sometimes and more times than not has gotten me in trouble, because I do have a tendency to just spew what comes to my mind, and I forget who my audience is, and I forget that I spend a third of my life with these guys I work with who may not agree with me 100% of the time. So I think it's really important to set boundaries, because you have to understand who your audience is.
Yeah, and so I think that's a great point, setting boundaries, but you have to set them on yourself, right?
Yes.
There's also other things you have to do, like when I'm going to be meeting with somebody that I know is going to be contentious or is going to be a disagreement, I have to have it clear in my mind what the purpose is that we're meeting for. Okay, yeah. If it's something that I'm just going to bump into this person, while I'm at the store, my purpose is far different than if I actually have to engage with them to get a job done or to have some kind of interaction that's meaningful. So it's very important that you first understand what your purpose is in this relationship. Okay. And when you do that, you start to see, is what we're trying to get done more important than whether I have a disagreement with this person?
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to understand the purpose. Then once you start to understand that purpose, then it's time to start talking about, well, what's the objective? What's the final objective here that we really want to roll through, that we want to try to have discussion about, or we need to deal with, okay? And let that be the thing that drives why you're coming together. Like when I look at all the political discourse that we have, we lose sight of the ultimate objective and we get into all the name calling. Yeah. If the ultimate objective is to serve people, okay, then right away that kind of gives you and I both on the same page. Well, how are we going to do that? Now, that might be where we kind of come to some disagreement, and that's
Sure.
where we can start looking at facts. Well, which way would work better? I like the idea that you said before. You guys go to the training ground. Yeah. You actually look, and you say, well, let's try it this way, and let's try it that way. You do a small sampling, and you get the best idea from that. But the idea of we are going to serve people has to be established versus we're going to name call. We're going to try to one-up each other. Yeah. We're going to try to make ourselves feel more superior than the other. So we have to be really careful with that.
Right. This past Sunday down on Whitewater Crossing where we go to church, John Tizovich, who's one of the preachers down there, did a sermon on choosing relationships over politics and kind of stemming a lot of the same stuff we're talking about. And one thing that John said that really stood out to me, when these conversations, when these disagreements are happening, he said his mom used to tell him to stop and think. And what a powerful statement that is. And then he kind of dug a little bit deeper with that, and he basically took the word think, and each letter represents a word to do in order to think. So, he said when those disagreements happen, stop and think, and the T would stand for be truthful. There's a lot of false stuff that's being spewed out right now. There's a lot of the fake news. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that is not, again, or cherry picked, where half of it's right and the other half is not really being exposed. So be truthful in those conversations. when those disagreements happen, we should be helpful. That everything we should do should be lifting up something. Is what you're getting ready to say going to be helpful for that relationship? Is it going to be, is it going to stem into burning bridges with somebody? Like when we talk, we need to make sure that our words are helpful. Are our words that we're talking, are they inspiring? And this is a difficult one for me because I feel like my point, I'm very, very blunt and very to the point about it. And sometimes that doesn't always come across as being inspiring to somebody. Our words should be necessary. Man, there's a lot of unnecessary things that I know I for sure say, and I know a lot of people in general just say a lot of unnecessary things. You could stop a point and your point has been made, but then you have to have that last word. You got to throw in the last little bit. And the last part of the acronym of think is to be kind. And again, this is one where I probably fall short majority of the time. So again, what our words are saying have to be kind to people because, again, we're called to love one another, not necessarily like them all the time. But in that love, we have to show respect, which you were talking about that before, Merle. And with that respect comes kind words.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Great acrostic there with the think. We used to. My mom used to always say this when you were battling with somebody. Again, I'm going to go back to my old phrases.
I like them.
She'd say, "Never burn a bridge." Yeah. Never burn a bridge. When we burn bridges, we forget that oftentimes we might have to go back and travel that bridge, and when it's been burnt. And so, the idea that I thought it always very important to teach my kids: don't burn bridges. Somebody might be irritating or bothering you right now. Don't burn it. Try to peacefully and calmly settle things because you never know when you might have to tread back over that bridge. And so we see that all the time in the real world, right? Yep. There's people that, even though they may have annoyed me at some point, I have to go back and I have to kind of do some part of life with them. I think it's important, too, that when you're going to be dealing with somebody that is potentially disagreeing or even confrontational, do not undervalue the purpose of a mediator.
Sure.
A mediator is, I function in a mediator position frequently in the type of work that I did. And the mediator is a neutral third-party witness.
Yeah.
Okay? It's that person who can say, okay, wait, I am not emotionally attached to this. Yeah. I don't have a dog in this fight, so to speak. And I can come in and help keep you guys grounded in the boundaries, in the rules, in the social engagement, because if the job is to fight, let's just go to a ring and start pounding on each other. Okay, I mean, if your goal is I just want to fight, just be clear about it. Let's go get the gloves on and let's go fight. But if your goal is like I actually want to get something done here, the role of the mediator, almost as a referee, can really be helpful. And I mean, we do that on a daily basis at Rock Solid Families. I mean, I have husband and wife come in here. I quickly find myself in a mediating kind of role to help them get through the tricky, sticky part, So.
I love what you were saying about not having a dog in the fight, because that's so important to be able to have someone, especially because those conversations that you're having, if those disagreements constantly are coming up, that's a great opportunity to have someone to be able to again take a step back and not be so emotionally charged, because when those conversations constantly are coming up with someone else, man, at some point you got to have someone in there who can kind of have that third perspective on things and kind of be able to see things from a different perspective, which I think it leads me to one of the next things is that perspective. Man, we have to start realizing people, their perspective on things, the way that they were brought up, their upbringing is going to determine their perspective, and we shouldn't discredit that. And in fact, we should almost embrace that. Like, you have a different point of view, you have a different perspective than I do. Again, that's a good thing. But not only do we need to understand the person's perspective on where they're coming from, we have got to start listening to people. Good Lord, we do not listen to one another anymore. It's all just turned into this big shouting match, and the person may be saying the exact same thing, the point you're trying to make, and you don't even hear them because you're so caught up. All you're doing is you're thinking about the next thing you want to say to them. You're trying to come up with that rebuttal. We have got to start listening. And there's a huge difference between listening and hearing somebody. You can hear them all day long, but if you don't actually comprehend and listen to what they're saying and process that through your brain, then you're not really listening. All you're doing is you're just hearing those words again. You're just trying to come up with the next thing you want to say. And when we talk about disagreements and dislikes for people, we have got to start listening to them.
Yeah, I mean, I can always tell, especially when I'm in the mediator role, whether if I'm working with a husband and wife, whether they're actually listening to each other. When let's just say the wife comes up with something that's hurt her or bothering her, and the husband all of a sudden comes back with, well, I did that because, okay, he was not even hearing what she was concerned about.
Sure.
He was thinking about how he can basically deflect ownership of helping her. Okay. And so how do I know when somebody's listening? They see clarity. They go, okay, so wait, let me make sure I'm understanding you. You said this, and this is making you feel, and basically kind of bringing it back around versus already having that answer like you were saying. So it's really important. Most people don't listen nearly as well as they think they do.
Right.
Because they're always, like you said, preactively thinking about what their next words are going to be.
Yep.
I think as we work with contentious situations like this, and we're trying to help families, and we're helping our culture as well, the idea that we celebrate the wins, we look at the successes. Sometimes when you and I are in a disagreement and we find out that we go your way on something and it turns out to be right, I'm so proud I can't even celebrate it with you. Yeah. In fact, I almost become envious and jealous. Oh, well, we did it Kyle's way. And we don't want to give him credit. And we see that, in politics, it's like crazy. You know, if the economy is going great and nobody wants to give credit to where credit could be due. We'll deflect it, we'll excuse it, we'll blame it. And at the end of the day, you're like, come on, man. Like that plan that you put together, it was good. Yeah. It served people well. And if that's your job to serve people well, give it credit. Because I don't need to rewrap it in a different wrapping paper and put my name on it so I can get credit for it. Okay, that speaks to our own immaturity.
Well, not only that, the idea of celebrating the wins. Man, this is where if we can start to understand and think of the similarities that we have and celebrate those together, kind of that whole idea when you're trying to critique somebody, you always start off with a positive. You did this correct, and then you can go to the negatives. Man, let's start out with our similarities and let's celebrate those, because then you kind of have a sense of unity then, and then sure, we can tackle our differences, but we've come from a place where we've celebrated together. Like we have common ground here. Now we can work on these other issues. Yeah. So I think, yes, celebrating those successes together early on, and then, yes, we can tackle those differences.
Yeah, I think it's huge, and we really have to get our focus on that. Again, we're called to work with each other and love each other in that way. So let's start to wrap this up. So why is this so important for me as a dad to act this way and to be this way? And I think the important thing is, as we talked about before, us as dads, we don't only function in today's world, but we are preparing the next generation. Yeah. And so if we don't do it right and teach it right at this point, it is going to cost us in the long run. We see that already. We see bad behaving adults all the time. And if you're a bad behaving adult, one who likes to argue a lot, one who's contentious, one who is narcissistic, if you're a bad behaving adult, it's probably because nobody ever set you straight in the generation before when you were being raised up. And so I really have to put the emphasis on, okay, I want to give my kids the skills to handle not just the sunny days, but the cloudy days, the bad times.
For sure. Definitely, man, this one always gets me, that when we talk about those disagreements, you have to understand that our kids are watching us. And this is again, because of my lack.
Everything you do, brother.
My lack of filter gets me in trouble all the time. Where my girls will be sitting there in the room, and I'll be on the phone with somebody, and we'll be talking about whatever, and we'll be talking about this other person that we disagree with, and the girls see that, and they mimic. My girls see that, and they mimic that. And then it's like, golly, I can definitely see the stubbornness when it comes to disagreements with my youngest, Mia. Man, she is a hard-nosed little stinker sometimes.
She takes you to task.
Oh, my goodness. And it's funny because Jenny, she'll do something, and Jenny will look at me like, oh, Way to go. She's mimicking you, and it's so true, man. These kids are like, they're sponges. They just absorb everything. And I guess all the stuff, the crap that I did to my parents, I'm getting paid back
now. So, one of the greatest gifts that you'll ever give your kids is to give them the gift of social skills, the gift of knowing how to interact. And not allowing them to get into avoidance because that avoidance allows them to be stuck in their negative thought pattern or their pattern that holds them back. So, when my kid's not getting along with a teacher or not getting along with another kid, I'm not asking him to go up and confront it. I'm asking him to say, okay, what's the best way to get through it? And in some cases, listen, if somebody's just being a punk to you, stay away from them. Yeah. But if it's somebody you have to do life with, then let's teach them the best way to do that. Several months back, we had a guest on our show, Duran Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
And Duran is a black gentleman, and it was so cool to have him on. We talked about fatherhood and that kind of thing. And the cool thing about what Duran brought to our show was how much he reminded me of every other good dad I know. We didn't even talk, the idea of color and stuff, it meant nothing because we were talking about what really is important and how he talked about his kids and just how he goes about fathering and all that sort of thing. And so if we did not have conversation and got to know each other, prejudice just grows, and it grows from my ignorance. I just don't know, or I have preconceived ideas. So getting to know people and getting to respect people and value them is just really a huge step in getting past the I don't like you phase.
Right, and that's where that self-righteousness leads to the pride. And man, I don't know about you guys, but pride destroys men, destroys this country. Like we have to take a step back and realize that you're not all that. I think I've said that a few times on this mic, and I'm talking to myself. Believe you me, that golly, our pride, like we have to set that aside sometimes and just swallow your pride a little bit because those conversations are gonna happen. It's not like we that's by no means what we're calling you to do is to try and avoid those conversations. Have those conversations. Be intentional in those conversations, but maybe swallow your pride a little bit, set your pride aside to have those conversations. Don't think that everything you're saying is 100% correct.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. And I think, when I look at, as we start to round things out and I look at, we are the week prior to the election, the two, to me, most damaging groups that we have in this country right now are the far left and the far right. Mm-hmm. They're both so full of pride and self-righteousness that they're actually one and the same in terms of how they operate.
Absolutely.
They're so far, if I took them around the globe, the far left and the far right, they'd actually be holding hands on the other side. Okay? That's how, so they are the same animal. So I encourage, we need more in the middle thinking, because in the middle thinking, the word moderation, mediation comes from the idea that we're going to honor and respect each other somewhere in the middle. And so be aware of where you are. If you're on that far right or that far left and you don't come to middle ground, that's part of the problem. We have to come to middle ground because we all have differences. We have to. I do this in my marriage, right? We do this. We teach our kids to do this. So, very important of understanding what that extreme looks like. Okay.
For sure. I love it. I think, as we close out the show, man, I would just really encourage you guys to go seek these conversations. They're not going to be hard to find. I'd almost guarantee you almost every day the potential to have a disagreement with somebody is going to be there. And how we react to those disagreements, man, is going to show a lot about your character. So I would just really, just seek those conversations out, have these hard conversations, but be mindful about these conversations when you're in the midst of them to set aside your pride, to understand that we're not called to hate these people, and hate the person you're having a conversation where we're called to love them. And in that love, we have to understand that respect has to come out of that. So, again, stopping and thinking before before you get ready to say something. So, again, just really would encourage you guys to go out there, find those conversations, and have them.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Yeah, we are pre-election right here. The next time you hear from us is going to be post-election. So in that show, we're going to talk about what do we do now?
What do we do now? whoever the candidate is that won, what do we do now?
Yeah, what do we do now? And so probably some of the words we use today, I think hopefully we can carry them into the next show, the idea of what we are going to do, what my stance is going to be in terms of moving forward, what is most important right now as we move forward. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of conversation.
Can I butt in for a second?
You would anyway. Why do you have to ask? You're always rude that way. I don't even know why I get along with you. Yeah.
Food for thought here, guys. Regardless, on November 4th, whoever the president, if we even know, whoever the president, it does not change who our Savior is.
That's right.
And I think it's so important as believers, man, whoever it is, Biden or Trump, whoever wins, he is just a man. He is flawed. But truly, I'm speaking from my heart, like, don't forget who your Savior is, because that's the perfect politician is Jesus Christ. So regardless of who it is, November 4th comes and goes, 2020 comes and goes, hopefully sooner than later. Like, whoever it is, man, don't forget where our foundation really comes from.
Yeah, and I would say on that, the coattails of that, don't forget who you are.
Yeah,
you still carry a responsibility to behave like a man.
Yep.
Absolutely. And so don't forget who you are. Keep your head together and continue to be the soldier that you're called to be in terms of protecting, providing for your family, and doing what strong dads do. So those are good things. Hey, we want to thank the Crimer Beer House and Mansfield Insurance Agency for coming alongside of Strong Dads and just continuing to allow us to do what we do. Let's just pray for this country. Always be praying for our leaders.
Yep.
God puts them in place, and sometimes he gives us exactly what we ask for. And I remember, in the story of Moses where the Israelites just keep complaining. God says, well, I'm going to give you what you want. Yeah. And then they complain about what they get. So you kind of get what you get. Don't throw a fit.
Yep.
But let's go in there and let's do our part and try to make this place a better place.
For sure. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Definitely, if you have any questions, want any recommendation, or want to give us recommendation on different shows, definitely reach out. You can call Rockstar Families at 812-576-7625, and we appreciate you guys, and go out there and be some strong dads.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.